about today. Something that I don't know when it'll actually make news, whether it's going to make mainstream media or if it'll end up making independent media as well. Somewhere, though, here off the coast of California here, there is a bay. And that bay, that body of water, has had some barges in there for quite some time. And I got to hear about an amazing story from a minister friend of mine that lives out there today. In fact, he was sharing with me the details of how that, just in passing, there was a particular Green Beret that goes to his church, and they were discussing, or the issue came up about sex slavery, kids that are being used in sex slavery. And he mentioned that there were certain barges in a certain body of water there. And if I remember right, it is off the coast of California. That's why I was actually zoomed into the San Francisco Bay there. That there were certain barges there that were housing sex slaves on that barge. Well, it just so happened that was shared with him a little while back. And yesterday, he had shared that information with a good friend of his that was a high-ranking Navy SEAL. Well, this morning he gets a phone call, because remind you, that was yesterday. This morning he gets a phone call, and he was actually in the middle of another, I don't know if it was a Skype call or whatever it was, but his phone kept ringing. So finally he gets off of there. He takes the call. It was the high-ranking officer of the Navy SEALs there that was on the other line there, and he said, "I want to thank you and on the behalf of 807 children that we rescued at 0:30 this morning, very early, right before daylight, from the barge that you spoke about, that you shared with me there in the bay." And he says to him, he says, "Are you pulling my chain?" He said, "No, sir." He said, "I never would." He said, "But I only told you about this yesterday." He said, "In 24 hours, a story that I'd heard about, months ago, and you're telling me that you organized a rescue event and went and investigated this?" He said, "You're talking about the best of the best in the world." And he said, "I took it very serious what you said." He said, "I assembled a team." He said, "We went to the location that you told us about. We did find the barges. There were several barges there. And on one of those barges, we found 807 children that were being used as sex slaves." He said, "And yes, we were able to rescue them." So I cannot disclose the information about who this come from, but I will tell you he is a very reliable, trusted friend and trusted source. I already am very familiar with the high-ranking Navy SEAL officer that he knows. And again, another very trusted, and I have vetted that information, not this information here, but I've vetted his information before. His information has always been spot on that he has shared with me. And so I can certainly believe that indeed they did rescue 807 children early this morning that were being very horribly violated. So we want to just, thank God for that. And thank God for you for listening and being supportive of